Hi. Today there will be one similarity between me and the pizza delivery guy. And if the pizza delivery guy delivers the pizza to you, then I will bring you happiness. More precisely, I'll probably even teach you how to use it. And the thing is, it's worth clicking with one finger movement, and happiness turns on. Because, I'll tell you a secret, happiness has never left you, it's always with you. I give you my word that in this analysis, there will be a minimum of scary and incomprehensible words that will make you want to fall asleep. However, because the book actually consists of 35–40% of this scientific nonsense, which sometimes makes you sleepy. But I overcame myself, finished reading this book, and wrote out for you all the most interesting points that I am already starting to use myself. There will be 2 parts. Part 1 is the foundation, just because you have to understand. You know how to play the game. You need to understand the rules. And the first thing you need is that there will be rules, because without them, alas, you can shit yourself, and you won't get anywhere at all. And secondly, these will be practical techniques that you can take and apply immediately after listening. That's cool. But why happiness, you may ask? Because I mostly like more practical books like marketing, sales, or management. But then I caught myself thinking that maybe I need to take a break because sometimes I go crazy. And then I saw the book Hormones and Happiness, and I thought, bingo! I'll try. I'll watch. And I was not mistaken. It may not be worth buying this book, but it's definitely worth listening to what I've prepared for you. Let's start with the basics, with the first part. Probably the most important thing is habits. This is the number 1 item I've written out for you. Why habits? Because I think you've caught yourself thinking that maybe you don't smoke. For example, I smoked about 6 years ago, and if you think that you're doing some kind of nonsense, well, because smoking is generally harmful, then it's gnawing at you, that is, it's a bad habit. And habits, in fact, if you are a conscious person, begin to depress you when you realize that you are not on the right path. And remember this, I'm just quoting, old habits are like a wide alley that is easy to walk along, and new habits are like walking along a barely noticeable path and cutting down vines in a dense jungle. Just imagine, I do not know, Sylvester Stallone making his way through the forest and tearing off these vines with a machete. It's the same thing, because old habits make it easier to move around. It really is something like an alley. And if at the moment when you have a signal in your head, for example, about stress, you need to smoke, this habit is just a means. You've done this hundreds of times before, and it's the easiest thing to do. But the way to get rid of this habit is simple. Stop. Just for a second. Better for a minute or 10 minutes and just think, what the hell? Why is there such a connection? Where is this connection? Why should I smoke a cigarette to get rid of stress? It's still not a magic wand, but rather an auto-suggestion or just a stupid habit. Item number 1. Bad habits are uncontrolled neural connections that are sometimes lost. But now you probably realize that we do a lot of things unconsciously just because we're used to it. And as a rule, each of us who is not engaged in self-development and self-awareness is at the stage of a robot. Remember, bad habits are evil, and something needs to be done about it. Item number 2. Take a closer look. Happiness is the 4 neurochemicals that I mentioned at the very beginning. Dopamine, endorphin, oxytocin, and serotonin. For the most part, imagine these 4 things, they combine and make us happy in different ways. And all these neurotransmitters, I've learned this word, need to be aroused, make them wake up and give you pleasant sensations. How to do it. And a small spoiler. Each of these neurotransmitters needs to be stimulated in its own way and perform different actions. For example, point number 3. It works with dopamine. Dopamine is a small achievement that gives us pleasant sensations. Previously, when we hunted, we noticed food and got dopamine. Now that foraging is not hunting, you need to define your goals and break them down into mini-tasks. This way we'll be happy more often. Well, that's how I put it. What does it mean? More precisely, what do you need to do? In general, each of us, well, you and me, has a goal, right? We want something in our lives. For example, imagine that you want a helicopter or a cool car. It's probably hard to spend $500,000 to buy a Ferrari just like that. And it will depress you because you won't be able to do it right. And if you set a goal for yourself, I do not know. So, earn the first bolt, earn the bumper, earn one wheel. And when you reach these micro goals, these are the mini goals that charge you with dopamine. You kind of took off, ticked the box, got a boost of energy, and got a burst of dopamine. That is, this way you will be truly happy, so always use micro-purpose objects. For example, I use a special application here, and there I just write down what I need to do, point by point. And it works. I'm telling you about a practice that I personally use. Next, the fourth point. Dopamine is actively produced during the waiting process and disappears when the goal is reached for all new searches. You need to know that. For example, journalists ask entrepreneurs, what is more important, a path or a goal? And everyone speaks in their own way because the goal is being achieved at the moment. Remember when you bought something beautiful and expensive? Well, for example, we have gadget technology there. When people buy iPhones, they want to buy this iPhone. They walk into the store, they're shaking, they're just amazed. They approach the seller and tell him that I have a new iPhone. They are given an iPhone. They are happy on the first day. But on the second and third day, everything comes to naught. Why? Since the goal is achieved, that's it, dopamine is not needed. That's why I remember the process. It's what fuels dopamine. Fifth, oxytocin. This is trust and respect among their own kind. Sympathy is the fuel for the production of oxytocin. What does it mean? In general, if you've ever caught yourself thinking that, they say, why do I need trust? Why do I need respect from my own kind? Well, I mean, us humans. Then you're wrong, because we're all animals to some extent, because we are. And yet, let's continue. Our ancestors. This is how they lived. This is how we live, just a little differently. And our brains change very slowly. And these habits of respect among your colleagues and fellow tribesmen are very important. Facebook, or anywhere else makes us unhappy. So if you haven't been paying attention, but you should have. Some are bigger, some are smaller, but it's true. Just think about it. Therefore, remember that we are hostages of our time. Likes, damn it, are an indicator. So keep that in mind. Let's move on. Serotonin, point number 6. This is group dominance. The more you feel dominated, the more serotonin you get. At the same time, the dignity of colleagues leads to a loss of their serotonin. I have a friend. He belongs to the category of best friends, and what infuriated me about him was that he didn't know how to be happy for me. Well, more precisely, I'm just very limited in my friendships with other people. And I tell him a lot of things that you, for example, don't know. And I'm wondering what the hell. We've known each other for so long that you can't be happy for me. It was driving me crazy. But in fact, on an animal level, it happens that we are programmed in such a way that we cannot sincerely, or rather, we can, it is very difficult. We generally need to work on it, but physiologically it is difficult for us to be happy for someone. Do you know why? Because we feel threatened. Just a threat. Again, not literally. For example, if you have the main male in your gang, and he walks around and dominates in general, the leader of the pack, then he gets all the best food, females and so on. And those who are weaker in the hierarchy get the leftovers. And because we see that someone is doing something better than us, this pain hits us right in the chest, and serotonin is not produced. Therefore, remember the rules. You do not need to compare yourself with others. As soon as you start comparing yourself, a squirrel comes up to you and starts feeling sad. 7th, cortisol. Cortisol is not an obstacle to happiness, but it should also be remembered. This is pain and discomfort for procreation. Each person takes cortisol for different reasons, depending on their experience. In general, a cornice is, a policeman on the road who stands with a stick and turns like this. You drive by, he waves his wand like that, and you have to stop. This is a signal that you are doing something wrong. But it's a very cool thing. That is, in fact, it turns out that it is impossible. It is impossible to be like this all the time. Hey, I am happy, cool, biting. The tree is green, the cloud is white. That is, it is impossible. This is physiology. That is, we need cortisol in order for us to stop and slightly change the direction of our movement. So, it's just a signal that we're doing something wrong. Therefore, when you understand these rules of the game, it will be easier for you to play this game. Just imagine you're so sad, and then for a second you realize that, yes, the ledge caught fire. What should I do? Think about what needs to be done differently in the future. Thus, the cornice is well made. Let's move on. The 8. Life brings joy when the reality around us exceeds our expectations. Here. This means that you have to remember in your life that if your expectations are always too high, then the reality is that things can get even worse. And if it gets worse and you've been preparing for it in advance, as is the case with travel. For example, I'm such a terrible asshole. I was looking at the latest countries and thinking, damn, how cool am I coming? I'm going to come off. It must be cool there. It's so cool. You come and realize that I screwed myself up and came up with something, and it wasn't cool at all, and I was depressed like a fish in water. Therefore, you do not need to set yourself up in advance for what you will see to be a super masterpiece. Let's move on. The 9th. The brain saves dopamine to receive new information, instead of spending it over and over again on already familiar rewards. Well, that's understandable. If you keep buying an iPhone 16, an iPhone 16, and an iPhone 16 again, then you won't achieve the same surge that you had when you first bought it. Thus, cortisol also acts not only as a policeman, but also as an arsonist. And he tells you, let's buy something cooler. In other words, it's our incentive to move on. Imagine a cake. You only like cakes. And if you ever analyze how you eat this cake, you will actually remember only the first 2 pieces. Well, more precisely it's delicious, yes. And then everything happens automatically. And that's a bad thing. 10th, if you don't compare yourself to a stronger person, it will inevitably lead to a drop in serotonin levels. That's exactly what I've been telling you. In general, there is no need to elevate idols to the rank of those who are much better than you. Forget it. You will have to play alone in a competitive game. That's all. We've briefly gone through the first part. Congratulations, well done, Krasava. Let's move on. These are tips. This is exactly what needs to be done, because information without practice is, alas, an empty phrase. Point 11. Set aside 10 minutes to experience the wow effect of small victories. What does it mean? This means that when you do something, you reach your micro goal. Stop. Take your time in general. Life goes on as usual. But you need to stop and think, damn it, no way, I did a good job, I did it. That is, when you consciously realize that what you have done is good, then you signal dopamine in this way. Dopamine acts, and it gives you a boost in your head, and you feel a little happy. And a continuation to this 10th point. You need to set aside 10 minutes for what you've been putting off until the last. Well, I've already seen this in other books. It's about what to eat, because Brian Tracy, the great guru of business coaching, says that you need to eat a frog first. Set aside 10 minutes for something that annoys you, but you don't do it. Your desk is a mess. No need to spend half a day cleaning. Take 10 minutes and it will make you happy. Truth. Farther, endorphins. Allow yourself to laugh. Is that clear? In general, I caught myself thinking that we humans are the same as you. We are very introverted, we have a lot of complexes, and we even have some, if you remember, some people. When they laugh, they are embarrassed by this laughter. They close their mouths. They are there. Hee and shut your mouth. Anyway, I'm living with my girlfriend, and I'm about to turn 7. And sometimes we get angry with him, like children. I mean, it's not just that I make jokes or tell some funny stories. It's like we're turning into kids. And children are the same people, only small and without complexes. So let yourself laugh. It doesn't matter what others think of you. Just allow yourself to do it, okay? Let's move on. Physical training for different types of muscles and stretching. Well, I told you there would be practice. In short, you need to add physical exercise. You can't go anywhere without them if you want to get an endorphin boost. But if you don't like pumping your muscles, do stretching. It's a stretch, because it's necessary. That's what the author of the book said. We will do it. So, stretching is something that increases the level of endorphins in the body. Father, oxytocin. These are surrogate friends. And it's better to trust than not to trust. You are an object of trust. In general, oxytocin is produced when not only you allow yourself to trust someone, but also people trust you. That is, for example, if someone lends you money, it means that this person trusts you, and you produce oxytocin. Therefore, of course, you do not need to become a shirt guy and trust everyone, but you need to slowly twist and change something in yourself. Therefore, try to trust people more if you want to make friends with oxytocin. Then a massage. Massage, hugs, all this affects the production of oxytocin. That's how human these touches are. That's why macacos pull bugs and spiders out of each other. You may have seen them digging into their fur and eating these things. This affects the level of oxytocin. Next, serotonin. Turn on your pride for 5 minutes a day and pass it on to others. But dosed. I'm telling you, this means that if you have colleagues with whom you work, try not to start telling them what a difficult job you have done, but very carefully, because people don't like it when a person brags about how cool he is, how much he has read done, because people like to listen to themselves, not then when you tell me how good you are. Therefore, in between, you can add what a difficult task you have solved and, in general, what a good job you have. This will help, so keep that in mind. Be sure to please me, like it, leave a comment, and I'll please you with the next video. That's it. Come on, now you have happiness. Or rather, you have a guide on how to use it. And now go ahead. I wish you happiness, health, success, good luck, just like that, for real.